Howdy ho ho, my good humans. This is Unnecessary Rambling. I'm Brandon Sylvia. I'm joined here today by the one and only Mr. Looney in the building. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad.
Nice, dude. This is exciting. This is an exciting endeavor indeed. We are making some changes to the format of the show of Unnecessary Rambling that I guess we can get into here off the bat since this will be the first video that goes up this week on the channel. We're gonna be Loon and I are gonna be working together. We're gonna be doing probably 3 videos a week. We'll film it all in one setting right here today, and then we'll split it up into 3 videos that release each week. We're gonna have what you're watching right now is the big news deep dive, diving into the news, the gaming news of the week, a quick wrap up of everything that took place in the gaming sphere over the last 7 days or so. And then we will be doing our game review discussion. That'll probably drop 2, 3 days later. And then we have one big topic, like one big conversation about some specific issue in the game space that we'll be doing a separate video on that. So 3 videos a week, trying to get out more content to you all. And Loon is one of the most knowledgeable motherfuckers I've ever spoken to about games, like legit 400,000 gamer score type fucking you got to put some respect on his name, man. That is a legit amount of time and energy spent into trying to understand this industry. And yeah, I'm just pumped to have you here and pumped to chat video games with you, man.
I'm pumped to have the opportunity to, give it a shot on this weekly format, and yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Absolutely, man. So that is the plan, and obviously we'll pivot as need be, and all feedback is appreciated, all that good stuff. We want to make sure that we're getting the content out to you all that you all want to hear.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
and I've talked about it before, man. Not to, I know we got so much shit to talk about. This week has been just crazy with video game news, but I to just be completely transparent with the audience, and I've talked about this on the channel many, many, many times before. I really struggle as a YouTuber. Like, I'm not good at YouTube videos. I really love podcasting. I love just rambling. You know what I mean? Like, I love just conversational discussion about video games, and this opens it up to that much more than like a strict. Because when I'm doing the YouTube, I'm always thinking in my mind, like, okay, let's chop this down. Let's, cut out this little bit of filler here. Let's cut out this little bit of filler here. And it's like, I'll have a hour and 30-minute recording, and I'm chopping like 30, 45 minutes out of it, just of like little breathing moments, little sitting there thinking for a second. And like, I don't know. I just like go, just hit record, go. And obviously I'll still have gameplay rolling and all that shit. So I want it to be a visual. I want there to be some visual aid where you're watching, and as we're reviewing these games, you're getting to see, 30 minutes of real-time game rolling as we're doing a 30-minute review of a game or whatever the case may be. So,
Yeah, and doing it in this format because we were obviously talking about it, doing it in one chunk. So we're doing all them 3 videos in one sitting. It'll be more natural as well when you're breaking it up
for
for that
sure,
week.
for
So
sure. Yeah.
yeah,
And
that was the idea.
yeah, exactly. And you're talking about we're in record for 3 hours, so hopefully you have an hour for each one, or an hour and 30-minute news, an hour for the game discussion, and then 30-minute for the topic, or however it ends up working out. And we'll adjust this as we go, bob and weave, and pivot with the times. So Loon, once again, thank you so much for joining me, brother. And
No problem.
with that out of the way, let's talk some video game news. Did you
Yeah,
see?
which
Go ahead.
one are we starting with? Of
How
the
about
of
we?
the many that we've decided to put down here. Jesus Christ.
And shit's breaking as we're speaking. So
Yeah.
if we don't go too long, maybe we'll talk about some of the news today, just as a quick on the fly breaking news discussion. But I think the biggest story this week that like I was not expecting at all, just a weird format for this announcement, was that Marvel 1943 Rise of the Hydra. game, which is Amy Hennig's new Marvel game that is set to release in 2025, which did not
Yeah,
expect that. First off, did not really understand. I get why they went with the MetaHuman Unreal Engine 5 presentation. That's something that they're really touting as a big feature in this new Amy Hennig led Marvel game. And just out the gate, Loon, I gotta get your. I'm assuming you obviously watched the trailer for
yeah.
that. What were your thoughts on that damn trailer, man?
I mean, it is crazy how far they can push it now. Like it genuinely looked like if you were just walking past and just catching out the corner, you would mistake it for a movie. Like they've bridged that gap extremely well. Um, I'm sure it'll be good. The only thing that I'm worried about is that she's been ever since because she was part of Naughty Dog, right?
Yep.
And then kind of left at what was the last Naughty Dog game that she did? Was she part
Un
of
she
Uncharted
kind of
4? Or did
yeah,
she do
she kind of got booted out of Uncharted 4. It was a really weird situation.
but she hasn't released anything since, has she, unless I'm mistaken? Like all of her projects that have had like these big announcements, they've never come to fruition.
That's true. That's definitely true. And the only thing I'll say though is that if you look at her recent projects that she was working on, one was with EA, right? And that
Mm,
EA Star Wars game that got canceled, I believe that she was the writer on that. So it's like that was at a time period where I can't really put the blame on her, where EA was just in such a live service tunnel vision focus.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, definitely she has had some projects get canned in recent years, but I know that Skydance Media is more in the film space, which Skydance Media they opened up a video game division, and she is kind of leading up that video game division. They also have that Star Wars game that's in the works as well. We don't know really anything about that. I'm assuming that's, closer to 2030. Um, but
mm.
I hear you. I do. We didn't see any gameplay on this trailer, and
No, and that was kind of worrying. Do we even know what type of game it's going to be? Because it kind of, I don't know about you, it felt like a Mortal Kombat cutscene to me.
yeah.
The way it was presented, and I was like, is this like, are they going to like make this a Mortal Kombat kind of esque game? If that would be very smoke and mirrors if they go down that route.
Well, it's going to be more in the Uncharted vein,
Okay.
third person. They say narrative driven experience. They don't specify single player as far as I'm aware. I haven't seen anything that's specifying single player, but it is saying third person action adventure narrative driven experience. And they're constantly talking about wanting to blur the lines between film and games. And obviously you see that as you're seeing
Yeah.
Black Panther with his mask off and just this crazy level of photorealism in the cutscenes. And I like the setting, of course. You're talking 1943,
Mm,
World War II. There's obviously some interest there, talking about the first Captain America movie. So with Hydra and all that, and what was it, Red Skull.
yeah.
And so you got some good villains that you can pull from there. I'm not a big Marvel lore guy, so I don't know exactly which of the comics they're pulling this from or anything. But I think the story, it seems like Captain America is kind of like tailing Black Panther throughout the cutscenes. So I'm assuming maybe there's some rivalry, and then you're going to work together. Like I think that
Yeah.
that could set up for a cool story. I know a lot of people are sour on the Star Wars Marvel game rollout, or I guess I should say more so the frequency at which we just get content from these universes, but we don't get many games from Marvel or Star Wars really. So like I'm not burned out by the games at all. I'm totally out on the MCU. Like I don't watch any MCU movies anymore, but I'm totally
Mm.
down for more games.
No, we've seen, and this is just off the top of my head, for from Marvel's side, we had in the past couple of years was Midnight Suns. Um, they really pushed a mobile card game, which
Snap.
I'm drawing a blank on. Snap, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
I can't really, obviously Spider-Man, but that's just tied down to Sony consoles as well. So there's really like not that much. Like people say that they're flooding a lot of the stuff, but the video games, they really aren't. Like there's an Iron Man game reportedly in development, supposedly, and then we've got this. Avengers was obviously a disappointment
Yeah, and then
because
Guardians.
Guardians kind of, would have sold a hell of a lot better if Avengers didn't exist. Jesus.
So you're talking about 5 Marvel games in the span of like the
Mm,
last, whatever 6 years or so. Like, so it's
and you
less than a game a year.
exactly, and you think of the movies, and they put out like a good like on average like 2 movies a year in that universe.
And then TV shows that tie
Yeah,
directly into it's too
exactly.
much, man.
And Star Wars games get even less.
Yeah.
Like we're pretty starved of them. And then to hear that they're getting cancelled as well on top of that is more like kicking dirt in the face. Like they still don't know what's going on with the KOTOR remake. It's not been 100% solidified that it's cancelled, but that they just don't acknowledge it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And it's this metahuman reveal, because I'm watching it here. This metahuman listen, I am not a tech head. So I think for me, I watch something like this 10-minute metahuman Unreal Engine 5 showcase, and I'm just like rolling my eyes. They're showing snow, the dynamic buildup of the snow on the barrels. They're showing like the natural smoke and how this technique that they're using with the lighting and shit. It looks great. No doubt about it. But it's just like, okay, we're seeing the natural tire prints from a truck, and how that naturally sort of like melds into the snow and shit. But and I understand this is an Unreal Engine 5 showcase, but it's like, dude, nobody, and what you said earlier, nobody's even going to believe this game will exist until we actually see gameplay of it. I'm hyped for it. It looks crazy. The budget seems to be astronomical, which is once again kind of scary.
no,
But
yeah, like that's what I was going to touch on. Like they show these showcases and stuff, and it's wow tech. But then you think of all the studios that are going to chase that wow tech and put themselves under doing that.
totally, totally, yeah, it's
And then even like, if this game starts to get traction, they may even deem it a failure, even if it ships millions of copies because of how much money that they've invested into them. That's the
yeah,
double-edged sword.
yeah, yeah. It's gonna be interesting to see how it all pans out. Um, but yeah, yeah. Well, I'm pumped for it, but we'll have to wait and
Yeah, I'm
see.
excited for it as well. It looks good. And like you said, I didn't know which of like the genre that they were aiming for. To me, it looked like a Mortal Kombat, but if it's going to be more in line of Uncharted, then yeah, I'd be down for that.
Definitely, yeah. I'm definitely
There
without a
wasn't any
doubt.
announcement on platform yet, was there?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's coming to all platforms except obviously like Switch. Um, and then I don't think last gen as well. But yeah, really excited. Next story I want to talk about with you here, and this is one that I think you're gonna have more insight on than me, is Larian not working on Baldur's Gate 4. This was I can't lie. I was really For one, I was really, really shocked when I heard that Larian isn't gonna deliver a sequel to Baldur's Gate 3. But then I started thinking about it. I got really hyped. I was like, damn, could Larian be making something totally different? Which I assume that this has a lot to do with
It was
the
the Wizards of the Coast relationship.
not.
They're a pain to work with, like big time.
eh,
Um,
Go ahead, you
so
take it
yeah.
away.
Well, they had because it was the game developer conference, right? That they announced all this stuff that they're not doing
Yep.
with it. They were planning on potentially doing a DLC, but that just shows you how strained that relationship was. That they were just like, we'll just cut and run. Like we're happy. They took a step back and they were like, look, we're happy with the way we've left the game, and we'll ship the physical copies, and then that will be it. We're done with it. And to some people, because you said like You were surprised. It didn't surprise me at all
Why
because
not?
they're a company that they're not driven by money. They're not driven by let's make a sequel just because it was successful. Like it must have been like it was obviously a passion project because they were so excited to have been given the opportunity. But when you're strained at doing something you love, you don't want to push yourself through that just because, you know, of previous feelings. So the relationship kind of being shaky with Wizards, they just were like, we'll just accept like what we did. And they're always open to doing weird, bizarre shit. Like this is a company that like Divinity is their baby as an IP. Like they've nurtured that for going on about almost 20 years now, I think maybe even as 20 years. And they're always willing to experiment in that IP. Because I think its original inception was like a Diablo like. Then they made this weird like RTS spin-off tower defense kind of thing. And then you obviously had they tried to chase the Dragon Age demographic with Divinity 2, and then the original Sin games. So, and then they had I think it was Fallen Heroes is what it was called, which was going to be like a bite-sized Divinity, very similar to like the King Arthur's Night Tale, and that got canned because of Baldur's Gate development, and they were kind of running into issues. So it's exciting to me because they're a studio that now that they've done that, it's very likely that they'll just do something completely that no one's going to expect, like a different genre that you don't think that they will touch because they will just get a passion for something and then that will burn bright and yeah.
So we talked briefly about this one before we began recording, and you said you thought you might have some idea for where they might go. Just obviously speculation, but
Um, I feel I feel like they'd want to do something different, like even picking up like because I don't think they flirted with like sci-fi-esque kind of things with um certain aspects of like the early Divinity games. Because the early Divinity games take place after Original Sin, which is the ones that blew up. So they had a lot more like technology available. Look, like they could do anything with the reputation that they've just garnered. They could walk into probably any studio and be like, "Yeah, we'll pick up anything that you want to put down." Like, maybe have them do the KOTOR remake. Because what I'm imagining, right, is if they actually came forward and was like, "Let me do the KOTOR remake." The original KOTOR combat is arse. It would be really, really heavily improved from like a Larian based combat structure. And you're talking like the way they write stories is incredible. Like they could just build it from the ground up and it would probably surpass the original just as Baldur's Gate 3 has surpassed them two very coveted early titles. Like they're just good at what they do.
yeah, dude, this is I mean, of course, you touched on it earlier. The payout to Wizards of the Coast was crazy. I think it was somewhere like in the 100 million range
Yeah,
that they
they
had
had
to
to pay
pay.
up front $100 million to have the privilege of then funding the project. It's just crazy.
I mean, that's like no offense to the Baldur's Gate name. Come on, man. Come on, man. That game was not gonna do that well unless it was Larian who crafted
Mm,
that project. You know what I mean? Like that was a when you started seeing 10 out of 10s roll out and highest reviewed game of all time and these sort of accolades that were accompanying the game whenever it released, like, dude, that was what sold the game to people. No, no, I understand Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 sold, decently well, 10 million copies combined. This is on a different planet. Larian, like you said, they should definitely have the green light to work on anything they want with any funder in the space. Any publisher, however they want to get their funding, I think they will be able to get it. Now, you brought up sci-fi.
mm.
Let me hit you with this. Do you think there's any possible, because I love a good fantasy game, but we get so many fantasy RPGs.
Yeah.
So many. Please, Larry, a spy thriller espionage RPG, man. Give me the spiritual successor to Alpha Protocol.
Oh,
I know it won't happen, but could you see that, dude?
do you know what? Because what I was thinking, like they're known for their turn-based combat, but they still made Divinity 2, and that was all real time. So it's they're fully capable of doing it.
I'd be fine with turn-based.
But well, well, that would be an interesting way of handling it. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, like it's fun and interesting to like pitch ideas, but it's whatever I want them to make whatever they're passionate because that is when they are at their best. Like I don't want them to be handed. I don't want this to then turn into something where these big publishers start approaching them like, you have this reputation, make this for us, and then they throw a bunch of money. I don't think that they would accept it. But that, when a big enough paycheck comes, like some people's heads do turn. So I
Yeah.
want I just trust whatever they go and do next is what they want to do and love.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I co-sign that for sure. Last thing, we'll move off this because we're already running long here. We got 500 more stories to get to. Wizards of the Coast seem a bit mercenary-esque in their approach to publishing. Would I be correct in that assumption?
um, they don't care because they have a bunch of D&D titles in development right now, and none of them are going to touch anywhere even like 10% of a Baldur's Gate, but they don't care about them.
So here's the thing. Wizards of the Coast still has the IP Baldur's Gate.
Hmm.
Is there any chance that Wizards of the Coast think I'm just saying from a corporate perspective, you think about the money. Don't think about because there's going to be a ton of backlash, but they ever possibly launch a Baldur's Gate 4 without Larian attached to it? Like the
Oh yeah, they would do that for sure. That is a Wizards of the Coast move.
That's what
Absolutely.
I
They
was
don't give a
thinking.
shit. Yeah, they don't give a shit.
So like
Um,
the Rogue Trader team or something.
yeah. I was gonna say they have a sketchy rep. I love Owlcat games like Pathfinder and stuff, but they're known for they don't deliver anywhere near the level of polish. They're, as I've argued, more fun in my opinion, the Pathfinder games and the Divinity games, but that's just a personal preference. But yeah, I could see that. But Owlcat are very similar to like Larian with like how Owlcat have they don't own Pathfinder's IP, but they are their go-to studio. Paizo, I believe, is the people who own it. So they went and they did that Rogue Trader game as a passion project themselves. I don't think that they would probably do a Baldur's Gate 4. I don't think they would accept because they would look at it and be like, look, man, we're never going to come even close to that. It would be a completely different thing. It would be very jarring to the player base because it would be going from real time with pause, strictly turn based, and then it'd go back to real time with pause. So
Right.
I don't know if Owlcat would do that.
Yeah. It's just funny that you're like absolutely Baldur's Gate 4 is gonna get made without Larian. Dude,
Yeah,
that is going to be such a black eye for Wizards of the Coast. But hey man.
yeah. Unless they find somebody who who can deliver even anywhere close to it, which is going to be a heavily. There's not really anybody out there. So
No.
good luck, Wizards.
Yeah. Well, man, this is one that you brought to my attention that I was aware of it like vaguely, but this Battlefront remaster situation, I mean, that is awful, dude. So this classic Star Wars third person shooter, just multiplayer extravaganza, one of the most fun PS2 original Xbox games of all time and it gets remastered by the one and only Aspire. And boy, it was a total shit show. And you brought up this article to me from True Achievements talking about Battlefront, the remaster collection did so poorly and people were so disappointed, but it sparked this renewed interest in Battlefront 2, the EA published game from
Yeah,
2017.
yeah.
So
They
what?
screwed the pooch so bad that they saw Battlefront 2 climb back into the top 40 chart, which and the remaster collection didn't even breach that top 40 chart because it was being received that poorly. I like I know Aspire are very hit or miss. I love the concept as to what they go out and plan to do. It is a noble thing, bringing like things like stubs to modern consoles. That was like a massive like hell yeah, man, give me this. But they put I wouldn't even say the bare minimum amount of effort because they just don't even hit that bare minimum. They cut as many corners as possible and then put that product out there and then they very rarely even fix it because even with like stubs and stuff they never fixed game breaking stuff. It's just the port and then it's just like here you go guys, you can buy again. But it really felt like you've landed the ability to do these two games justice and then they they were so confident in themselves that they were like, yeah, and we'll bring like fully supported online multiplayer as well from our own servers. And it was like, oh, well, maybe they're actually like taking this seriously for once. Oh my goodness. No, no. Because I fell into the trap. I purchased it because I was like, there's no way they could screw this up that bad. And it was just, I booted it up and it was in like the first 10 minutes. I was like, I've played these backwards compatible like a year prior, and they played better than this. Like this is horrendous.
And so was it server issues? Was that like a big thing? What was the bit? Was it just
Um,
unpolished to like the 10th degree?
so the games themselves come packaged together. It's like a launcher that you get, and then you pick which one. The file size was like 90 gigabytes,
Oh
which
my
is
God.
insane. Like, what the hell have you done to expand these games to 80, 90 gigabytes? It didn't even have like a big thing. Like, this doesn't affect me because I don't use inverted for like camera controls, but that's like a major thing like nowadays to have that expected. It didn't have that. It had ridiculous server issues. Like, that was the first thing I jumped into. I was like, I never got to experience Battlefront 2 multiplayer and stuff. Hell yeah, let's go. And it is unplayable. Like you just can't.
And this was like online 64 player code. Like it had crazy. I was like, oh my God,
Yep.
that's gonna be nuts to see that. And then you can barely get 64 people around the world into this damn
I think they
server.
had two servers and they were filled with 64 players each, but it was the stability was horrendous. Like really, really bad. And it was just like I just don't understand. Like I know you had like the aspirations to deliver this, but how do you drop the ball this hard?
Well, it's funny, Loon, because like you look at that team and because they man, like you said, Stubbs the Zombie, the Jedi Outcast collection, they've done some great shit. But then it seemed if you go to 2020 or 2021, when that KOTOR game was announced, the remake that Aspire was initially developing, it seems like from that point on, that's when shit started getting weird. Where you had the KOTOR remaster that they did on Switch or the port, and there was issues there. You have this, and then it's like, was there just too much going on that
They're
caused
under
some?
Embracer, right?
Yes, yes. There you go. There you go.
So, I'm wondering if maybe they're getting funding issues, and that's why they're kind of having to fully cut corners more so. Because, like I said, with even like stubs and stuff, it felt like they cut corners, but you could at least play the damn thing.
Right.
had bugs, but you could at least play it.
Yeah, I got a copy of that.
This is just, yeah, it's unplayable online. I don't know if it's been fixed since, but that's not the point.
Have you
First
heard?
impressions.
Yeah, have you heard anything about that Tomb Raider trilogy port that they did?
I actually picked that up and it was pretty solid. It was
Okay.
pretty solid. Um, but I can't give like a 100% like opinion on it because I never played the originals,
Oh,
so I
okay.
don't know how it holds up. It felt archaic to me, but I was like, maybe I don't think this is Aspire's doing. I think this is just the original game's controls.
Right.
But it didn't
Yeah.
have like stuttering or anything. It ran smooth and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that's such a disappointment because like those games were classics, man, and to have them restored, I thought they were already backwards compatible though. The
Yep.
originals, I thought, yes.
On Xbox it is. Then I don't think they're available on PlayStation, but I could
No.
be wrong.
Yeah. Good. If you got an Xbox, go play the good ones. Go play
Hmm.
the original
Yeah,
versions.
absolutely.
Resident Evil 9, Capcom, man, don't do it. It's looking like Resident Evil 9 is going to be open world, guys. This is from Dusk Golem. And let me, why is it not pulling up here? I'll pull it up over here and read it on this file real quick to you. Let's see. Boom. All right.
They do love mixing things up, that Capcom. They sure do.
Don't they, man? It is just an absolutely fascinating company. And if I'm not mistaken, Dragon's Dogma, that's on Unreal Engine, correct?
No, that's on the
I mean,
that's
yeah,
the RE engine.
my
Yeah.
bad, RE Engine. So it's
Hmm.
like that is an open world game running on RE Engine, and
Yeah.
it has issues on PC, but on console it seems to be running pretty good. So maybe, but regardless, Dust Golem, a very reliable leaker in the Resident Evil sphere, said this on Twitter. So here's a little tidbit I'll share. Capcom often will greenlight new initiatives and threes closer together. Decent examples are RE7, RE2, and DMC5 were all greenlit fairly close together to take advantage of their new RE engine. And the idea to remake RE2 inspired them to also take on RE3 and RE4 for a remake initiative. Dragon's Dogma 2 expanded RE engine functionality for open world games. The two other games building on this tech is Monster Hunter Wild and Resident Evil 9. The only thing I'll additionally add before going silent and not reading Twitter again for now is part of all three project goals has been to retain the series DNA. Dragon's
Hmm.
Dogma 2 is still clearly Dragon's Dogma. Wild
Yep.
is still clearly Monster Hunter. Same will be true for RE9 with Resident Evil. So Dusk Golem's kind of positive on that one a little bit there. How do you feel about
I'm
this,
inter
Loon?
I'm interested in hearing your take, but I'm right there with him because as we'll get to later on as to what we're playing, like I'm happy with Dragon's Dogma 2 and Capcom. They you obviously have Unreal, which is what everybody goes to, but that RE engine, man, is so versatile and it's only going to get better. So you're talking whenever this game comes out, these little performance hicks that it's run into in Dragon's Dogma 2 should be heavily ironed out by then. And I doubt it's going to be on like the scale of like an Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Because what I wrote down was we've slowly been seeing them expand the size of their games. Because you had Resident Evil 7, which was really compacted, and then you had Village, which was becoming much more like that's much more closer to an open world than it is a traditional closed off Resident Evil game because of how big that map is and how much you explore.
Damn, Loon. You are spot on, dude.
So you could kind of see that trend going that because it also even with like RE4's remake, like these are massive worlds when you think about it. And do you feel like it's detracted? I don't think it detracted any. I think the games are incredible.
You can almost make a legitimate argument that RE4 is pretty close to open world. I mean, it's like, if I'm not mistaken, there's only one section in that game that you can't get to in a seamless path, like that you have to go through some sort of, you know, linear pathway to get to it. But everything else, I think, is like freely explorable. And you're talking about, you
And
remember
you're
the
backtracking constantly as well. Like it's always accessible, these worlds. So yeah.
well, remember the boat section in RE4, the remake, where it was like
Mm.
more free and open and you could
Yeah.
kind of go to a bunch of these different, or I think it's like three or four different locations and then a little island in the middle.
Mhm.
And so it's like, damn, dude, what if they have methods of traversal where you can get onto a boat and go to like little small. The only thing I'll say for real open world, I think about like interactivity with environments and stuff. And so we're gonna have Leon, climbing up mountains like he's a Dragon's Dogma character, or Chris climbing up mountains like a Dragon's Dog.
No, he
Like that's
wouldn't.
just a
Chris wouldn't
funny.
climb, and Chris would be punching them, of course. So he gets to the top, he just flattens
There is no top. He brings everything down to him.
it.
That is funny, man. So it's funny because I thought about Days Gone and State of Decay were the first two I thought of because, survival horror open world games. I think of the system of Days Gone with the fuel, having to make sure your motorcycle has enough fuel, and then if you're out in the middle of this desolate area and you're just surrounded by hordes of these zombies or freakers, whatever the hell they want to call them, that are just charging in at you, and you're like, I gotta find some fuel. You're scavenging, going into these gas stations and pillaging and going through all the different drawers, and you kind of get in this manic state of survival.
Mm.
And there is some interesting things that could be done there, but Resident Evil's never really had that intense feel to it. No disrespect to Resident Evil, but it's like, I mean, I guess if you play on the harder difficulties or whatever, sure, but that Resident Evil is so cozy and fun, and I think the linearity kind of aids that cozy experience where it's so straightforward, simple, point A, point B action.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I could see that. Um, I've because what immediately sprung to mind, but it if they did this, it's kind of been beaten to death. But you'd think like maybe like a Raccoon City kind of thing,
Oh my
where
God.
like it's a lot more expanded, and that would kind of because you wouldn't it wouldn't really make sense to have like a an open world in the vein of like a Dragon's Dogma, I guess, for Resident Evil and that kind of thing. But like Village, with it being squished, it feels right. But if you were to make it a lot more wider and just have it filled in between, I don't think it would gel well with the series. You'd need like a town city setting and stuff like that. So, but that's why I wanted to pick your brain on that. Like, would you be down to revisit Raccoon City, or do you feel like RE2's remake and RE3's has kind of exhausted that?
Well, you know, can't really revisit Raccoon City after the events of RE3,
Hmm.
but I get what you're saying. Like that type of location, 100%. That is where I would much prefer a city
Yeah.
than a, because even RE4 and RE8 were so similar, in terms of the environment design, the location design that you're exploring. I think we definitely have to get back to, this is going to sound so weird, dude, but there's something shiny about Raccoon City. When you're seeing these environments, there's something like it I don't know the right terminology, but I'm like seeing it in my head and I'm like there's just something more pristine feeling about a city opposed to
Mm.
like these open, more, for a lack of a better term, more fantasy, pulled from fantasy
Yeah.
open world environments. Like a
Yeah.
city. I definitely, if we do return to, or if we do go to an open world Resident Evil game, I do hope it's more of a city environment, less so of a, you know, RE4, RE8 structure.
Yeah, it'd be really cool to I'm drawing a blank on the movie, but it's the filler for Resident Evil 4 to 5, I believe, when Leon is working obviously with the president and stuff.
Yeah.
Set it there. Imagine being able to like go into like the White House
Oh
and
my
stuff like that. That would
God.
be so cool, and repelling attacks and stuff like that. You know,
Yeah, dude.
how fucking awesome would that be?
That uh dude. Absolutely. That yeah, if we go to a city for RE9 and Dusk Golem was also the leaker who reported that it's going to be the highest budget Resident Evil
Mm.
game of all time.
That's why
So,
I was thinking, like, if you're gonna put it somewhere, you're gonna put it in a city, expand them assets, and push it to the max.
I mean, there is a real it's interesting to think about a AAA super polished version of State of Decay, like a third
Mm.
person over the shoulder State of Decay. Dude, that's
It's what they
nasty.
keep. It's what they keep flirting with State of Decay 3, but we've seen nothing. So it's like if you're not gonna pick up the torch, dude, Capcom will happily probably take a crack at this.
Yeah.
They're very talented.
100%. Um, this is one you brought up to me as well from True Achievements that I found really interesting. Just this idea that movies and TV shows are a lot more important seemingly for for because Fallout 4 saw a rise in player count, correct? Whenever the
Yeah.
trailer,
So the Netflix, not Netflix, the Amazon TV show for Fallout dropped its trailer, and it got fairly positively received. And it ended up they counted that there was a 33% increase in Fallout 4 players on Xbox and a 6% increase on Fallout 76. So like these things clearly generate interest in for people to either go and pick the game up for the first time or even just go back and do another playthrough because it's like, ooh, yeah, that that will get me interested in because it's the Sony tactic as to why they did the whole stuff with The Last of Us. They knew it was a tried and tested method. Make the TV show, remaster the games. They sold ridiculous amounts of copies with them re-releases.
yeah. Yeah, it's a really, really good point. And I watched that trailer and I thought it did look really good. I wonder how successful this show is going to be. I know that's not the point of the article there, but I do have a curiosity of where this is going to land because obviously production value and budget are really high with this, and Amazon backing it and funding it. Like there's going to be real money poured into this thing. So The Last of Us is, I guess, the peak right now, and I guess maybe you could say Mario as well, just in terms of financial,
Mm.
the financial peak.
I mean,
Um,
Sonic is up there as well. Them Sonic movies have been doing fucking ridiculously well
yeah, good
as
point.
well.
Really good point. Where do you think this is going to land in terms of, because we have, sort of lower tier video game adaptations, and then we also have that middle range, like The Witcher, which I loved The Witcher 1 and 2. I would kind of consider that more up to the higher tier, but it's definitely not on the level of Last of Us and Mario and all that financially, I wouldn't say, but it's also on Netflix.
It all depends upon how much you're invested in the lore because what you've just said there, you said The Witcher was good, but you didn't touch The Witcher 1 and The Witcher 2, right? You only
Exactly.
touched it from The Witcher. A lot of people were disappointed with story beats. It's one of the major reasons Henry Cavill stepped down from his role as
Yep.
being Geralt because he felt that they just weren't doing him justice. It's like this isn't he wouldn't be doing these things, and this isn't the way the story would be going. And that's kind of like because Microsoft obviously now owns Fallout. They've done that with the Halo TV show, pissed off a major amount of their fan base because of story plots that just doesn't seem in character with what Chief would do and stuff like that. So it all depends on what they do because Amazon as well aren't known for being respectful to the IP. Like the Lord of the Rings TV show butchered that law big time. Um, because I've always said it's a good show. It's fun. It's interesting as long as you just don't think that it's Lord of anything tied to Lord of the Rings because it's just insulting. on so many fronts.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably going to land round about there. I don't think it's going to blow people away.
Right. A little bit better than like Halo into that Witcher range, maybe not quite on the level of a Mario, somewhere in that middle ground.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it'll be just below The Witcher and like quality and stuff, but I could be wrong. Who knows? They may found the secret formula.
I will say though, to your point earlier about me not really being invested in The Witcher, and because I actually watched The Witcher season one and then immediately went and played The Witcher 3 after. So I
Mm,
do think there is that crossover appeal, like you mentioned a little bit ago, and it can get new fans in. And so it's like it's hard to really I really feel for the role of these, writers, directors of bringing this popular game and adapting it into the film world or into the television world because it's like what is the goal? To get new people in, to get the people who are invested in? I guess the obvious goal is both, but is that
yeah.
possible? That's a tough job. I don't envy that.
It's what we've also got to keep in mind. Like we can, I can criticize them for not respecting the lore and stuff, but you got to think it's a lot different making a video game story than it is making an engaging TV show to be invested in.
Yeah.
You can't do stuff that you do in the video game and port that one to one over to a film and to a TV. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. There's so much interactivity
Mm.
involved and yeah,
And you only
absolutely.
have a certain amount of runtime. You think of The Witcher 3, you could put 100 hours into that thing, going through all of these experiences, and then they're like, yeah, you have like a 1 hour time slot.
Dude, did you see that The Sims is getting a movie starring Margot Robbie? Which
And
is perfect.
yeah, I guess that's kind of similar to like Barbie, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
crazy.
they're going all out. That's mad.
I mean, we have Gears of War, God of War, Horizon, Ghost, everything from
Mm.
PlayStation has got a
True.
damn has a damn TV show
Well,
or
even
film.
as Microsoft, they're getting their finger in it with Halo, Fallout now. So
Yeah.
it wouldn't
Gears.
surprise me. Gears, it wouldn't surprise me if they've got Elder Scrolls lined up.
Tie to that real quick. This is news from today that we're gonna really this is on the fly right here, but we have some news from today about Elder Scrolls 6, and it is reported here that Bethesda is celebrating 30 years of Elder Scrolls and in doing so provided a brief update on the development of Elder Scrolls 6. I'm reading here on the fly from IGN. And
How many years, sorry, was that celebration?
30 years.
That's crazy that because they leaked, well, they didn't leak, it obviously leaked with the acquisition thing that they had that Oblivion remaster in development. You'd think that they would try and hit that window.
Right. Yeah, that would have been a good 30
That would have
year.
been a yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But this is Todd Howard, I believe, speaking about Elder Scrolls. Like I said, apologize. This is on the fly here. Last but not least, yes, we are in development on the next chapter for the Elder Scrolls 6. Bethesda Game Studios said, even now, returning to Tamriel and playing early builds has filled us with the same joy, excitement, and promise of adventure. Thank you again for supporting us all these decades and all you have brought to the games, making them your own. We couldn't be more excited to continue and celebrate the next 30 years. So, Elder Scrolls 6, we knew it was in development. It seems that, they're playing early builds of the game. That seems to be a
That's
little bit further.
a lot further than I thought, considering I think it was only just before Starfield came out, they were batting away comments saying that, it's in the very, very, very early pre-production phase. Like they hadn't even written anything yet. It was just basically a sticky note on a wall saying make Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. Yeah, this I can't lie. This surprised me that there's a playable build.
Mm,
Of course, that could mean a very, very small slice of the game, and I'm sure that's what we're talking about here. A very, very, very small uh pre-alpha, so hell, even earlier than that. We're probably still somewhere in the maybe a little bit past the concepting phase, but I so I mean, everybody assumed that we're talking next gen for Elder Scrolls 6, PS6, Xbox Series Y, Generation
Mhm.
10.
Yeah.
But if there's anything that's even remotely playable at this point, that would kind of suggest to me that maybe they had a small team working on this while Starfield was finishing up production. And
Maybe
now,
it was just smoke and mirrors of not being 100% honest, is what it feels like, where it's because they must have had some skeleton crew working away at it. It was more like they didn't want to take away from the buzz of Starfield. So they're like, it's not in development yet. Stop asking. Here's Starfield. Look at Starfield. Here's a trailer for Starfield. And now that that's obviously dropped, they no longer have to direct any attention to that. And they can just pivot to Elder Scrolls.
yeah. And so the setting, I'm not an Elder Scrolls guy. Are you a Elder Scrolls guy?
I know a decent amount, so I don't remember what the name of the place that it's set
Tamriel?
in. Oh, that's like the continent, I believe. I meant there's like a specific set, like Skyrim was a part of
Okay.
Tamriel and stuff like that.
Okay. So going back to Tamriel, uh yeah, this large continent, and I'm not an Elder Scrolls guy, can't lie at all, but I loved Starfield. So I do, so that's the funny thing is not being a Bethesda game studio fan and really getting into Starfield, it they cleaned up the combat immensely for Starfield. The I would say best,
Uh,
would you say
the,
best Bethesda combat
the
ever?
yeah, it's the best Bethesda combat ever, but the thing that I would like
That's what I was
very
about to.
heavily direct to people's attention is they cleaned up the gunplay.
Yep.
They didn't touch the melee. The melee's been terrible since day dot. Like, I'm sorry.
Yep.
So if they keep that, it just detracts. Like, I don't enjoy playing like Elder Scrolls games. It's always easier to play a Fallout game because even when you
That's
stack Oblivion and Fallout 3, like both are archaic in its control, but you have a lot more enjoyment out of Fallout 3's combat than you do Oblivion's.
yeah, because you can essentially make Fallout turn-based, you
Yeah.
know.
And there's never been impact. Like that's something like, oh my God, like I'm just every opportunity I'm getting to blow smoke up Dragon's Dogma arse, I'm taking this. The combat in Dragon, like the visceral hitting, like with the impaling skill when you knock them down and it locks you into that anime, it doesn't have that bite that that game has, and they need to seriously find a way to translate that over and give that combat bite.
You hit on exactly what where my brain was going about Starfield's the best Bethesda combat ever, but it's nothing like Elder Scrolls combat, nothing like Skyrim. So it's like now they have another massive, massive pivot to make, which is scary considering this is a team that takes a long time to get out games. So because like you said, if it's another rinse and repeat of Skyrim, people think that Starfield got roasted critically, or critically
Mm-hmm.
it did okay, but by the fan base, by the users, by the BGS fan base,
It'll be
if
eaten
Bethesda,
alive.
oh my God, standards are, I mean, like you said, Dragon's Dogma 2, and here's the thing about Dragon's Dogma 2 is it's not like that can be done in an RPG, like a Bethesda RPG or even Dragon Age. That's achievable. That type of combat is achievable. It doesn't have that crazy, crazy production value where it it doesn't feel like God of War because there's so much more freedom.
Mm.
You can do so much more. in Dragon's Dogma. There's endless possibilities. And that's what you want from an RPG. You don't just want the freedom in your choices. You want the freedom in your play style. And I think that that is achievable with a Dragon Age, with an Elder Scrolls. And I think I'm not trying to throw expectations too high, but I think that should kind of be the expectation at this point. We're in 2024.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It should have been the expectation with, you know, all of these previous games. They should there's melee combat in Fallout. They should have polished up. The melee combat in Starfield they should have polished up. But they didn't bother doing it. So, you know, that's the major backbone of an Elder Scrolls game is melee combat. And, you know, if they can't get that right, they damn well better get like the spells right at least. Like get something in that combat trio right. Either the ranged combat, spells, or melee. If they deliver below par on all three of them,
Totally.
that's going to be catastrophic, big time.
Well, staying in the Microsoft sphere here, Xbox has reached an agreement with Crash Bandicoot and Spyro developer Toys for Bob for their next game. So Microsoft will be funding the next Toys for Bob game. This is coming from Windows Central and Jez Corden's article over there. And so what are you thinking here? We obviously Toys for Bob went independent. What was that, a month ago or so at this point? And obviously, Microsoft acquires ABK, and we're thinking that, oh, well, that's like one of the premier studios that everybody has their eye on for their next Xbox exclusive title, or, however they end up working that out, which I think most people kind of assumed it'd probably be multi-platform for ABK studios in general. But
Yep.
Toys for Bob getting their independence, going off on their own, and now being funded by Microsoft. There's a lot of questions I have about this next IP, next game. I'm assuming, do you think it'll stay Crash, Spyro
Yeah.
related? You do?
I think what this is because when it was all coming out, they had a very, very bad work culture
Hmm.
when they were under the Activision Blizzard umbrella. So the moment that they saw an opportunity to get the hell out, obviously Microsoft owns the IPs now to Spyro and everything. So they still have a kind of leash, as it were, on them. But I think Microsoft they're happy. They've done loads of these deals before of, we have the IP, you can make it for us, kind of thing. So I think and Toys for as long as they have their independence and they can do it creatively the way that they want to do it, I don't see any problem in that. And I think that it will probably be, another Spyro Crash, whatever they want to do. And it will just be funded by Microsoft and just be fed straight into Game Pass, I would assume.
Yeah, which is obviously great for us as Game Pass members. Like that will be awesome. Um, oh, I hate to do this. I and I'm in massively in the minority on this, so I get it. But I really want this damn thing to be exclusive. I really want. I, I know it's not, or I'm sure it's not. I don't know that, but I feel like it probably won't be. But it's like, man, you're funding this damn thing. Make it exclusive for a little bit, even a little bit.
Yeah, no, I could see that. That's much more realistic. It'll be the thing of like the Pentiment thing,
Yeah.
where they'll lock it down depending how well it does. Maybe you have a 6 month window if it's not performing well, and 12 months if it's doing well.
Yeah. Because I want must play exclusives on that platform. And it seems like we're getting some this year, but and Game Pass has been hot. It's been on fire. I've seen the updates on that. It's been on fire. So there is still reason to play over on Xbox. And then this is a whole nother thing that we can get into at another point. We've got into it multiple times in the past talking about this. I just really want to ensure the viability of that platform. And I will always be under the belief that the only way to have your console, your platform remain viable, or maybe not always, but at least still today, is by having content that you can't get elsewhere. That just my belief. I don't think Game Pass in and of itself is enough to
Mm.
make you know what I mean? You gotta have some of those must plays over there.
No, absolutely.
Are you hoping for Crash or Spyro? Or a new IP? Which would you prefer of those three choices?
I'll be 100% honest with you. I don't think I've ever played a Spyro game, and I really don't care for Crash, so I'll have to go for like a new IP, I guess. But I don't. I'm assuming it would be something similar to a Spyro or Crash if they were doing a new IP, so it wouldn't really speak to me.
Yeah.
Not really like a 3D platformer kind of collect gems kind of guy.
Have you seen that Penny's Big Breakaway game?
Nah.
Dude, look that. I mean, I like you just said, I'm not a 3D platformer guy. I'm telling you to go buy a collectathon, but that shit looks nasty. That looks good as hell. It's only digital right now, so I've been holding off. But yeah, I'm new IP all the way. If I had to choose on this, I love Crash. I love the classic Spyro games from the PS1 era. I didn't follow anything beyond that, but yeah,
Hmm.
I interesting, no
Yeah,
doubt. Gonna
it's good. It's good for them. Like, uh, if anything, like to be taken away from it. Because if I'm not mistaken, as well, just like one last thing, it's I think they were pulled into like the COD development towards the end,
they were.
and it was just like that's that's awful for them. Like that shouldn't happen. I think
Yeah.
that, and it's this they're running into these type of problems more and more because EA did that with I think Criterion on the newest Battlefield. They did the
Yeah.
same thing, and it's just like you're bringing a racing team developer to come in and work on because you're that short on like staff, and even then you have shitloads of staff. It's just crunch.
Yeah.
You're putting even more under crunch, and it's yeah. So if anything, like I said, it's good that they have their independence. Let them do it in their own way.
Well, and you have like Ravensoft over there at Activision and the Call of Duty sweatshop. It's
They,
yeah,
they live in the war zone thing. They've not been allowed to leave. That is it. They've been
you're
designated that role and they've not left it for like what? It's been 4 or 5 years now and that.
yeah, and you're talking a really talented team, so I'm with you.
Hmm.
It's a real bummer. Um, but let's transition over here. You know what? I guess this kind of ties right in as well. We'll briefly touch on this. There's not much of a news story here to even talk about, but Shinji Mikami, he started a new studio, just this random ass. It was in the Shadows of the Dam. It was on their website. They just like leaked that Shinji Mikami started a new studio. Obviously, he was a part, or his studio, Tango Gameworks, they were a
Tango.
part of the Bethesda acquisition under the ZeniMax umbrella. And so Shinji Mikami, his studio gets acquired. He gets a massive payday out of it, I assume. They go on to release Hi-Fi Rush, Critical, Darling, and he's like, all right, I think the studio with what's his name, Evil Within 2 director, uh, J,
I'm drawing a
something with a
blank.
J. I'll think of it in a second. But Evil Within 2 director directs Hi-Fi Rush. So he seems that he's kind of taking over that studio. And Shinji
Hmm.
Mikami parts ways. And on Shadow of the Dam's website, when they're, talking about the history of the game, they just mention here, let's see, in 2010, Mikami founded Tango, after which directed and released The Evil Within. He also acted as executive producer on Ghostwire Tokyo and Hi-Fi Rush. After leaving Tango Gameworks, he established Kamiya Inc. or Kamu Inc. So just like a little
It's
throwaway line.
it's because many people kind of thought maybe he was retiring, but he's so passionate. Like, because it's funny that you say Shadow of the Damned, and I completely forgot that it was getting remastered. That's one of the games I've been playing through. Very, very small. I think I'm in like Act 2. And it oozes. I know it was I think it was like a trio project of like three big guys, Suda, Shinji, and the guy who did the Silent Hill music.
Yeah,
But it just oozes Shinji Mikami. Like
RE4 all
all of his
day.
DNA, yeah, the Spanish roots. Like I think he's secretly Spanish. He's not actually Japanese. Like yeah, there was no way he was just going to leave the space, even on such a high. It just, like you said, he took that payday and he was just like, I don't really want to be under a massive conglomerate. Like, I want to just be able to have creative freedom. Give me that money and I'll just reinvest it and just keep going.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be sitting on my hands. Like, let's go. Let's go do something new. You got to
definitely.
respect that guy's got incredible drive.
For sure. Yeah, yeah. I'm pumped to see what he ends up cranking out. I'm assuming this will probably be a pretty big studio. He's about as big of a name that you'll ever have in this industry. Obviously Resident Evil 1996 on to RE4 and it just the Evil Within, a crazy, crazy legacy. He can get funding from any, like we talked about with Larian. He's that same tier.
Let's see this Toys of Bob thing get replicated and let the man make Evil Within free. Fund it, Microsoft. Do that.
Dude,
Give me that damn cliffhanger ending and
right.
fucking resolve it, you bastard.
Yeah. I can't.
I don't see that happening. That is a pipe dream, but come on.
I, you know what? Well, we're kind of approaching that summer window where we'll be making some Xbox showcase predictions and stuff potentially. I, dude, that teaser in Hi-Fi Rush for the Evil
Mm,
Within 3 is like
no, exactly.
prominently featured to the point
Yeah.
where I don't think you put that in your game unless that other game is actively in development.
Mm,
I don't know. That's just my theory, but Hi-Fi Rush was such a success that I could see them pivoting and being like, all hands on deck. We're making cartoons, we're making action figures, we're making,
yeah.
yeah. But
But
anywho,
it'll be interesting if, because obviously they've retained the IP, Microsoft. I don't think he took that with him. So would
yeah.
they is there any staff left behind that would be wanting to pick that project up? Or would it have to rely on him partnering with them? That's the only thing.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, I think John Johannes, the Jesus Christ,
There you
that
go, you found it.
that's crazy. Uh, I think that John Johannes is I think he was the lead on the Evil Within 2. And so I think the Evil Within 2 might have been more his passion project, which that would
I mean,
leave
it's
us
a
in
much
really
better game. I'm sorry, Shinji, but
without a doubt. And so that would kind of leave us in a
bring
good
it.
spot. If he is still passionate about like finishing that trilogy or whatever, that would leave us in a good space because we know Microsoft is totally in the business of funding. I mean, they funded, no offense to my brain isn't fucking working today. Obsidian guy. What's the damn Obsidian guy's name? Uh Tom, is it Tom something Sawyer, Josh Sawyer, right?
Okay. Yeah,
The
yeah,
really handsome fella, dude, they funded Pentiment because he wanted it funded. No offense to Pentiment,
yeah,
but
yeah.
Pentiment ain't moving any units. Like the Evil Within 3 will matter, which Evil Within 3 obviously will have a much bigger budget.
Much bigger budget. Yeah,
So
it definitely felt like a Game Pass filler game. Maybe that's why they wanted to be like, yeah, sure. Because if he would have turned around and gone like, I want $50 million budget, they'd have been like, get
nobody
out of here, man.
for sure. But speaking of surprise success, let's hop on over to the top 20 best-selling games of February 2024. And
It's depressing, is what I'll say for me, seeing that list. I don't know if you feel that way.
well, hit me with what depresses you.
Well, in that list, it showed that Skull and Bones was number 4, Suicide Squad was number 7.
Yeah,
I get, I know Helldivers is topping that list and it's breaking numbers, but that's a huge portion of what is essentially live service games, and it just shows why they chase these trends because they shift units.
yeah.
It's
I'm gonna record my screen right here on my iPad and put it into the video so people can see it. This is the top 20 list, and I'll read it off from in ascending order. I'm so bad with ascending and descending. Ascending means going up.
Mhm.
20 is Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, 19 Rainbow Six Siege, 18 Mortal Kombat 1, 17 Mario Kart 8, 16 Minecraft, 15 Super Mario Bros. Wonder, 14 Elden Ring, 13 Marvel Spider-Man 2, 12 EA Sports FC 2024, 11 Mario versus Donkey Kong, 10 Hogwarts Legacy, 9 Persona 3 Reload, 8 Final Fantasy 7 Remake and Rebirth Twin Pack. That's interesting. 7 Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, 6 Madden 24, 5 Tekken 8, 4 Skull and Bones, 3 Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, 2 Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. And here's the craziest shit in the world. Number 1 is Hell Divers 2.
I said it had
Um,
staying power, and I'm sure it's going to still be up there in the coming months.
I I'm astonished. But well, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth only had like a couple days on market before these reports were casted, I guess. But I would still think in 2 days or whatever, the Final Fantasy VII had to meet these, to meet this window. I would still think in that time it would have outsold Helldivers 2. Maybe
Uh,
that's fool's expectation, but
it's a JRPG at its core with that kind of stigma. So, it's very loud, the fan base, and they're happy, and some others aren't happy with it. So it seems like it probably would have shifted a lot more copies, but you saw this with Persona 3 and stuff like that coming out. They didn't really make the biggest splash. Like it's still, I think you said ninth hanging in there, right?
Persona 3
Free
is at
reload.
ninth. Yes,
Yeah.
yep, ninth.
So it's still breaking top 10, but it's not. That's kind of where I would expect like Final Fantasy to maybe pushing to the fifth because you just see the live services just inflate in numbers because they just come in droves, the fan bases of that. Once they see something appealing and blowing up on like Twitch and stuff, that is it. You're talking like probably 80% of the viewers watching that will go out and buy it just because that person's enjoying it.
I wonder if you can. Okay, so we have it eight. Final Fantasy VII Remake and Rebirth Twin Pack, which I didn't even know existed. Um,
That'll be
if
digital bundle.
oh, never mind, duh, of course. So if you combine that and Rebirth into one as like one unit, if that all accounted for just Rebirth sales, I wonder if that would push it above number one. I kind of don't think so. I feel like if
No.
because I was thinking that I mean this must mean that Helldivers 2 has sold like 7, 8 million copies.
Yeah, no, it absolutely has shifted roughly about that because you think as well, it's so much easier to swallow. It's being sold for £35.
Right.
You're talking half the price of these games on the market. And with it getting the publicity it's getting, absolutely it's shifting that many copies. It's crazy.
Dude, PlayStation has to be, or Sony has to be just having a party right now. Oh, it also on this, it says that it is Helldiver's seventh best-selling PlayStation game in launch month history for PlayStation. Seventh best-selling
Mhm.
launch month title in history for PlayStation is Helldivers 2. Like,
You think of how many big ass IPs they've got under that
yes,
umbrella and it breaking into the top 10 of that. That's mad.
that is crazy, dude. But yeah, there's
It
some
shed and it sheds light on why they wanted to so heavily double down on live service because you get this one hit and that's it. You're running away laughing to the bank.
but do you think that this is that type of hit? It's obviously a huge success, and I'll take my L 100 times over. There have been people who have disputed me in the comment section before about the live service initiative at Sony. I will give you your W on this one. Helldivers 2 is a huge success, but is it that type of success? Like, I still think Sony is wanting Fortnite money, Call of Duty money.
Oh, of course, that's always the goal. it won't reach that because that is like in a different league. But this could definitely be, and this is even going to sound correct. I think it could like rival like Siege in its longevity, and because you think like that of all the crap that Ubisoft's put out, that's always been in the top 10, like fairly consistently. Like maybe it would drop out here and then, but it will always climb up. Like you see it in True Achievements and like the top games of the month. It's always in like top six. That's an achievement hunting website. That's people that finish things and put it down, and that you have like Fortnite and everything topping it. It has that grip on people. So if they can deliver on like consistency of updates, like they came out and said that they had like a little roadmap planned. Absolutely, I think it could rival the player count of Siege.
Bro, where the hell is Infinite Wealth? Did
Oh,
it not
that
crack
dropped off
this?
hard.
That
This is what I mean.
is
You see JRPGs, they burn really bright and they fizzle out. It's going to happen the same with Final Fantasy.
okay. So Persona 3, was that a January launch?
No, that was February.
So this is the first month for Persona 3 that it's been on these charts?
Let me like 100% check because I'm it was January was Infinite Wealth. Um,
Because if this launched in February and that's Persona 3's first month, like I don't, no offense, Loon, but like I don't know if that's great numbers either.
oh, what for Persona 3? No, you got
Yeah.
to think that's copy shifted. A lot of people that probably touched Persona did it on Game Pass.
Oh, that's right. It was on Game Pass. True, 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 true. Okay, that
Infinite
is true.
Wealth, on the other hand, was not.
Was not right. Right. That is very true.
Um, I buy
I'm
so much shit on Amazon. Give me one moment.
No,
I'm
you're
trying to
good.
find it.
I'll go through something else that really,
February 2nd is its release.
so it had all of February to
Mm,
chart. And
yep.
that's not great. That regardless of Game Pass or not, that's not in, but to your point earlier, Skull and Bones at number 4. I
With how
mean,
much negativity that game got, and it doesn't matter. The live service fanboys are tone deaf, and I'm sorry if you enjoy live service and if you enjoy that game, but it yeah,
and
you
then
shouldn't.
you talk about another one with Suicide Squad at number 7,
Hmm?
but I don't think of that as like a really great sign, to be totally honest. At number 7, that's a pretty quick drop off. And it's so funny, Hogwarts Legacy sitting here at number 10. You're
Hmm.
talking about a game that launched over a year ago that is 3 spots behind a game that launched a month ago.
Talk about tone deaf with Warner Brothers saying that they're still going to be doubling down. It's like, dude, it's still in the top 10, your best-selling game, and it's a single player only game. Just shut the hell up and focus on that. The hell is wrong with you?
Ooh. So, anything else on this list surprise you? This is actually a pretty interesting best-selling month.
No, because I get bombarded with these lists every like month on Twitch. So for me, like seeing live service that really don't deserve to be there, it doesn't shock me. And then seeing something like, because you seem very surprised that Persona 3 hasn't done that well.
I am.
I'm surprised it cracked top 10, if I'm being honest.
Okay, maybe my expectations are, because that's the thing.
It's a
Like
it's a beloved series, don't get me wrong, but it's one of the things with, like I said, like I think Final Fantasy, it may steal a spot or two and climb up one or two play, but it will drop quickly.
yeah, yeah. It's funny you bring that up because that's the exact thing I was thinking. It's like people talk about this game like it's the second coming of Christ, and which quality and sales don't necessarily always. That's yeah, that doesn't always translate, but. Okay, those are the top 20 best-selling games of February 2024. I'll stop the screen share now. And let's move on into make sure I haven't missed a story here. I think we're right around the wrap up of our news stories. This week got a couple more to hit through. This one isn't really much of anything. no offense, I don't mean that in a negative way, but there's not a ton that really could be said on this. Striking Distance, the Callisto Protocol developer, they reveal a new game, and they also reveal that they have a AAA game in development as well within this trailer. It's called Project Birdseye. I'm assuming that's a working title. It's a roguelike action game. It's set in Black
In the
Iron Prison.
Callisto, yeah, in the Callisto IP, which was kind of bizarre.
Yeah, it kind
Maybe
of
that pushes towards that AAA game. Is that Callisto 2 then? They just don't want to. They maybe want to see how this lands
you
before opening their mouths.
I would hope to God it's not. I like Callisto, I do, and I'm saying this purely from a business standpoint for the longevity of that company, for the sustainability of that company.
Get away from it,
Do
please.
not release Callisto 2. Just make a whole new make Callisto 2 just with a new IP. Literally the exact same game, but name it something else. Like there's some stank on Callisto's name. And I don't think a lot of it's deserved. I think a lot of it is that just it was a little weird. It was a little experimental, and journalists oftentimes don't really like that. You know what I mean? And then it got hit hard in the review cycle. I think it was like at a 62 or something at one point, which
Yeah,
is
it didn't
crazy.
deserve that level of shade thrown at it. It was definitely for me a disappointment. Um,
Yeah.
but I didn't. It wasn't like burn your house down worthy kind of
It
thing.
when it's coming from the one of the lead directors of Dead Space, and then you're seeing it and it looks a lot like Dead Space, and then you play it, it's like, oh,
This
this is
is not
Dead
Dead
Space at
Space.
home. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
it didn't
it,
do much for me that trailer for the little roguelike fit. It kind of because what I wrote down here, it just looked like obviously you've played Hades, maybe a little bit more budget of Hades. It seemed more, if you've seen the game, The Curse of the Dead Gods is what it's called.
yeah,
It was more like that level of polish and kind of things.
yeah.
Um,
I think the art style looks good. I think it's like a visually it's striking when you look at it. It's like, damn, this looks cool. And I do once again love the idea of returning to the Callisto world with a smaller budget because I think that the lore there, the setting there is pretty fucking sick. But
mm.
I don't think you can do Callisto at a triple A level, unfortunately. I'm shocked that they have the funding to get another crack at a triple A title. I'm assuming that they already struck some deal with Microsoft or Sony or Amazon, whoever, for some, to publish this because I
Maybe Callisto shifted more copies than we initially thought.
I don't think so, man. I don't think so, unfortunately. I
Uh,
do. And because I worry, and we'll go ahead and tie right into this next one here. Uh, Sony Bend, their next game is a live service game. And it was reported on their website that they were looking for positions who, people who have expertise in the live service realm. They said specifically that they wanted expertise in people who have made the transition from working on like standard boxed, single player releases and have
Actual
pivoted.
games. Yeah.
Yeah. But people who have successfully pivoted
Um,
to live service and yeah, I this was revealed a while back. There was rumors a while back that it was going to be a multiplayer game, but I was always hoping at the very least that multiplayer meant it's going to be a game with a real game with a story that you can play through single player and then a multiplayer tie on. And because I remember there was also a rumor that they were building on the Days Gone universe or, building in that they have that foundation set for the open world and they have really cool mechanics and interesting ideas for Days Gone. So to
yeah.
expand on that, to build on that's a great idea. Obviously, they're not going back to the Days Gone universe. Um, but to do it all in a live service setting, I'm assuming it'll just be kind of like a what is it, DayZ, where you're shooting hordes and hordes of enemies. Like I assume that's what this live service game will be. You're just gonna
Maybe
pick.
they're just preparing for. Helldivers to quieten down because it's like a horde-based shooter, and then just fill that with a zombie-based horde-based shooter.
Yeah. I, I wonder if it'll be zombies. I feel like if it's zombies, it'll immediately get hit with a super nasty negative reaction from the fan base of Days Gone. I would be bummed out if I saw Sony been working on a damn zombie game and it's not Days Gone. I can't lie.
Yeah, but then they could say that it's set in the universe and stuff like that, and just yeah. Because you got to think, if that game does well, maybe that would be enough to convince Sony to get that sequel greenlit.
Yeah. Which I mean, not the writer left, the director left.
Yeah,
Like,
they completely burned bridges with the people that were the core because they were like, "Are you serious?
yeah.
We sold like decently well. What do you mean?"
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, I think it sold just as much as Ghost of Tsushima. So
Mhm.
it's like, dude, what, who gives a shit what the Metacritic was? That thing moved some units, which I know Sony Bend, they took forever to get this game out the door. And I assume there was some sunken costs there. But yeah, I worry about Sony Bend being shut down, talking about striking distance and the failure of Callisto Protocol. And, we saw Sony London get shut down earlier this year. So, Sony seems to be on a bit of a spree with cancellate. We saw factions get canceled. We saw Twisted Metal get canceled. They've been on a real spree of axing these live service games and entire studios that are working on these live service games. So
Yeah, they don't have as much of a budget as Microsoft. They have to be cut for it. Otherwise,
yeah,
they themselves would look at, you know, flirting with financial ruin if they greenlit all these titles and saw them through to the end. Like the moment they smell that it's very, very wobbly, it's better to just, okay, whatever money we've sunk into it, cancel it, try and salvage whatever you can from that and just apply it to other projects.
yeah. No, w at some point though, we do have to look at Jim Ryan's, you know, whatever 4 or 5 year run from 2019 to 2024. Which I guess kind of 2023. But man, some mistakes were made.
Mm.
Some real mistakes were made. And I hate to do the console warring thing, but you hear nonstop about mismanagement from Phil Spencer and Matt Booty, and like, dude, we have to start talking about that on Sony's end, which hopefully it's getting cleaned up now with Jim Ryan, leaving. I wonder if there was a little bit of a boot in the ass out the door, but he stepped down, retired supposedly. But I mean, yeah, you Pixel Opus along with London Studio shut down, Faction shut down, Twisted Metal, that Spider-Man live service title, the what was it, Deviation,
Mm.
their first person shooter. I mean, there's been a lot of access to some, I assume, AAA live service titles, and that's
Yeah.
a good direction that we're going in. But it's wasted resources. It's all
Well,
wasted
and
resources.
it doesn't seem like single players getting greenlit in its place. They're just replacing it with a brand new live service. Because
Yeah,
this they axe them and then like Sony Bend's come in and it's like, yeah, and they're going to be making a live service. It's like,
yeah, and
cycle.
and then we have a year this year where there's not going to be a single, not one first party single player game released in 2024. And last year, all we had was Spider-Man 2, the only first party single player PlayStation title in 2023. And we know nothing about 2025. We
Mm,
Naughty Dog hadn't put out a game since 2020. Tsushima, Sucker Punch hadn't put out a game since 2020. You would think they're right on the precipice of another release, but who knows how big that factions team was? Do they
yeah,
have, are they going back to the drawing board from scratch for their new IP? Like,
it's crazy to me. Like we'll finish wrapping that. Like how much they wobble after getting such a strong position. Because this happened with the 360. Like it started off so damn strong, and then they just fell on their face, and it went straight through to the next generation. And they're still picking up the pieces now. And it seems like Sony was on cloud nine, and they've just they're really beginning to wobble. And like you said, like no first party this year. That's brave. That's really, really brave to think that your entire year is going to be like third party. And I guess like Helldivers is the closest to it because they obviously funded it, I believe Sony, but
Yeah.
it's still released on PC. Like you've got nothing there that's the usual. This is only available on PlayStation.
And yeah, I guess let me be clear because I see that argument thrown around all the time that, oh, well, if they funded its first party. Okay, sure. I'll rephrase it. There will not be a single PlayStation owned, Sony owned studio releasing a single player game this year. For right now is how it looks.
There's no
And
exclusive, just plain and simple. There's no that is only on that con like a Bloodborne. Like it's only there. That's the only
yeah,
place you can consume that. There's none of it.
right.
And that's what they're missing because it's what they've used to propel themselves so hard. They dropped
Totally.
their titles in, and then a few years later, now they're flirting with, okay, we'll put it on PC.
Yeah. No, it's and I don't I think that it's been over a decade since we've been in this situation, since early PS3 era. I don't think we've been in a spot where PlayStation hasn't released a single player exclusive title from a Sony owned team since like 20 in the early 2010s, early PS3
Mm,
or mid PS3 era.
yeah.
So yeah, man, but let's get out of positive land and let's talk about some cool shit that we saw at the Spring Future Games Showcase. We had a bunch of indies pop up here, and we figured we would shout them out to you all. Obviously, I'll have gameplay rolling for all of these as we talk about them so that you all can get a look at them as we talk about them. Loon, what was the first thing that jumped out at you at this Spring Future Game Showcase 2024?
So I'll try and keep it in like chronological order from where when that was
Yeah.
like releasing and stuff. The thing that kind of stood out was that Harold Halibut game first.
Yes.
Very weird and bizarre. I don't know how well that's going to gel with people. With its art style and like animation kind of quality is a little bit shaky, but it seems really interesting.
Totally,
Very,
dude.
very weird. Um,
That's the stop motion, the handmade stop
yeah,
motion kind of claymation art style,
yeah,
dude.
kind of
It's
inspired by that, and it's coming out soon. That's what's
yeah,
crazy. Like April 16th. That's not
yes.
long. Like
I'm
a
not
couple
gonna
of weeks, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're at the I mean we're not even a month
End of
away.
end of March now. Yeah, that's mad. So I don't. Have you seen that before? That was its first showing, right?
No, this has been in development for like over a decade, I think.
Oh,
And
I hadn't this flown under my radar.
well, yeah, they ran it because initially this was going to be I think this was going to be a point and click adventure game.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, you
then
can
when
see that. You can feel that like DNA in his bones.
yeah, and then Dear Esther came out, and the studio was just like so inspired by Dear Esther that they were like, "Dude, we can make this claymation stop motion game, but we can make it in a walking sim capacity, which is crazy." Uh, I mean, the thing about Harold Halibut, this trailer specifically that showed me was the scale. Like, there's one moment towards the end of the trailer where they walk into this almost like Coliseum-esque
Mm.
arena or something. And I was just like, yo, there's going to be some big shit happening in old Harold Halibut. And I was reading like previews and stuff. People were talking about this is going to be like a 20-hour narrative adventure. And you're going to be making decisions and stuff. I think like this, yeah, dude. This became immediately became I I'm not going to say most anticipated game of the year because it's like that's probably a bit of hyperbole there. I'm not sure if it would be there, but like
The
it's
most
up there.
anticipated indie, though, surely, like in the top three of that, surely.
Yeah, Plucky Squire and this are definitely one and two, I would
Mm.
say. I'm very, very excited for this. April 16th for
For
Harold.
for Steam, PS5, and Series X and S, so no
uh,
previous gen,
Oh,
and
nice.
and no Switch.
Nice, nice. So the first one I have here that I want to shout out is Zoocosis. This
I
is
thought that
a
would gel with you. Yeah.
yeah, the body cam horror game where you are playing as a zookeeper, and there's these like infected giraffes and different zoo animals roaming around amongst the other normal animals, and they're sort of coexisting, but they're not supposed to be because I think the infected ones are infecting the other non-infected ones, and it's fucking up the ecosystem there in this zoo. And you are the zookeeper trying to stop the outbreak. Seems to be like I guess a first person adventure game. I don't know if it's a shooter. You just have like this little device where you're able to track, you're able to track the different infected creatures, but I didn't see any
Yeah, like a scanner.
weapons.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You'd hope that there would be combat because that's the thing that really pulls me away from these types of games, like Layers of Fear and
totally.
the original Amnesia. It's just I get it. It can be more intense when you got your back against the wall, but to have an entire experience, they usually like 6 hours of just constant running, hiding, running, hiding, running, and very basic, frustrating puzzle solving sequences.
Yeah,
And yeah, so hopefully there's a little bit more meat to
I'm with you. Yeah, I would definitely want to fight those crazy infected
it.
creatures. That would be sick as
Get away
hell
from
to
my giraffes.
yeah, let me kill a damn mutated giraffe. But what you got next, man?
Um, I mean, Flintlock. It
Okay.
it speaks to me with it being very obviously heavily inspired by Souls likes and stuff. Because they even said that their plan is to appeal to experienced players of that genre, but also make it accessible to other people and not like leave them hanging and stuff. And the combat was very like rhythm based, which I'm all for because if you can get a Souls like combat down to how to explain it, something that they used in Dark Souls 3 was tying the move set of bosses to the actual music that's playing. Their attacks would hit and the scores would hit up. And the big one of that was the Dancer of the Boreal Valley and stuff like that. It was a dance, kind of keeping with the name. And you you could even it's why so many people can do that boss fight blindfold. Not so many, obviously, it's not that easy to get, but so many people were able to do that like as challenges because you can do the entire thing by listening to the music. It's all tight. It won't attack off beat. So if they can like replicate that it's one of the most incredible feelings because you feel so in flow with the game and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I think this is coming to Game Pass, if I'm not mistaken, as well. Flintlock, right?
Mm.
It's
Yeah, I don't think it mentioned that in the thing. I might have missed it, but it's coming to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC is what I caught in summer 2024,
I am
just around the corner.
almost yeah, I'm gonna pull
Because it
this
did
up
feel
real
like
quick.
I think it did get announced at one of the Xbox
Yep.
showcases.
On Xbox's website, Flintlock: The Siege of Dawn is an open world RPG coming to Xbox and Game Pass. So for all of
Hmm.
you Game Pass users out there, you don't have to shell out any cash for that one. Well, other than your 15 bucks a month or whatever.
Yeah, other than your blood donation each month to Father Phil.
So I am going to shout out, you know what? I'm going to go with Sky of Tides here. And uh, so I can't say this trailer was exceptional. It kind of looks like a sci-fi narrative-driven CRPG. You don't really see any combat taking place in the trailer. And but when I went to the Steam page, that was when I kind of got better understanding for this game. I think it's going to be like a Disco Elysium game deck
Mm.
styled, very, very narrative driven, very choice centric game. And I definitely need to see more, but I could be crazy, but it looked like there was like a vehicle that you were driving or piloting in the on the Steam page. Like that was something that they kind of highlighted there. And so yeah, Sky of Tides, a good CRPG, sci-fi, narrative-driven CRPG. I would definitely need to see more on it. This is one of, I would probably say, on my lesser tier of exciting announcements that really caught my eye, but still something there. When I went to the Steam page and saw it was a little bit more choice based, I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep my eye on Sky of Tides.
Yeah, I don't think that made my list. Maybe if I would have gone to the Steam page, it probably that
Yeah.
sounds a little bit more interesting than what they showed.
The trailer
So,
wasn't great, and obviously I'll have the trailer rolling so people can see it. But yeah, and then this for platforms, I should have wrote down the platforms for Sky of Tides. It is coming. Hell, it's coming everywhere, even the Switch. So stay tuned for Sky of Tides. And it's this did it already release? Maybe it was an early access or something because it says initial release date August 5th, 2022. Maybe it was delayed or something. But yeah, I thought the art style was definitely it popped when I saw it.
hmm.
What you
Hmm.
got next?
um, ah, I don't know if this will do anything for me, but it just looked so weird and crazy. The Tenebris Somnia game,
Yeah.
like, what the actual hell was that? It it's like an 8-bit kind of horror adventure, and then every like interaction that's like big is all done through live action. It looks so goofy as well. The
Yeah.
monster chasing towards it looks so goofy, but it just I don't know, it's just charming. It just the guy seems really into it, really excited to do it, and it's just like, hey man, I'm here for it. If this
Yeah.
is like on the cheaper side and you're not gonna sting for like 70, like this is like a 20 entry point.
Max. Yeah.
Hell, why not? Like, let's see what you got cooking.
I think he was a horror director, and now he's making his transition over to the video game space, but bringing a lot of that film
Mm.
knowledge and expertise over with the live action stuff. It inspired by PlayStation 1 era, maybe even before that era of survival horror. But yeah, it in terms of unique, this might have topped the
Yeah,
entire list. This was, well, I
yeah,
mean, Harold Halibut, but like in terms of things I have never seen before, never heard, I was like, this is
yeah.
about as unique as it can possibly get. So yeah,
And like you
shout
and
out.
like you said, he's a movie moving from movies to games. If there's anybody that could enter the space, like I don't obviously don't know how talented the guy is, but if there's anybody who could just fling an idea at a wall, it'd be somebody moving from one medium to the other. Like you saw that with like I don't think the guy who did Shenmue was like a movie director, but he in his mind he just wanted it to be a movie, is what he envisioned it as,
Yeah,
more so than it being an actual game.
right.
So, and you saw a lot of things that, QuickTime events for Christ's sake came from that.
Yeah.
So be careful what you
I
wish for, I guess.
for sure, man. Talking
And
about
that,
really, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's just the Steam only release, but it doesn't have a date tied to it. So
Okay.
no consoles apparently just yet.
Talking about cool ass art styles. Once again, gotta give a shout out here to Haunty. Kind of Death's Door looking title. And apparently this has been like they've showed this off multiple times, and I somehow just it totally passed me by. I've never seen this game. It's like this really, really pretty monochromatic sort of art style with like splashes of color thrown in there. It all looks very pencil drawn.
Mm.
Reminds me a lot of that Mundawn game. That it was a horror, all hand drawn pixel art and or pencil art. That it's
Yep.
like this. it's a really, really specific art style that just it looks super, super sick. And yeah, if you're into a good top-down Death's Doorsy sort of experience, top-down action game, Haunty might be something worth keeping your eye on. And that's actually this is releasing May 23rd, 2024, and it's coming to PS5, Switch, PS4. Da, 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 da. Is that no? Yeah, it's coming to all platforms.
Hmm,
So
that's good.
shout out to Haunty. What you got next, man?
Um, I was kind of surprised because maybe I've missed something. Has Moon Studios gone independent?
Yeah,
Holy shit. Man, no Ori free.
yeah,
But boy, oh boy, no rest for the wicked instead is something I wouldn't have expected them to do from going from Ori, but it looks really interesting. And they seem really passionate about it because he said that the guy who's the director, it's the game that has all the elements he's wanted to have be put into a game, but nobody's blended it just yet the
yeah,
way that he wants it. So he's like, hell, I'll take a crack at it. And it looked really solid, like a ARPG with social elements, and then on top of that, like a town building. Like it had everything, like a little bit of everything, and it looks really that's straight up my alley.
yeah.
Like, give me some of that.
It looks so damn good, man. So damn good. And it doesn't have a release date just yet, I don't believe.
It's going into early access April 18th on
Okay.
Steam,
It's
with a
probably
plan of getting it to consoles in the further date, but that doesn't have a date for the consoles.
I'd assume that's a 2025 title, you would think, when it
Yeah,
probably launches.
yep,
Um, next up, I want to shout out, and this is one I've talked about quite a bit on the channel, so I won't linger too long on this. I want to shout out Holston. You get to drive a fucking car.
yeah. You beat me to it. That was gonna be my next one. So that's both on us. It looked incredible.
What? Like I was totally fine with the initial idea of okay, you're playing as a Resident Evil, tank based when you're doing the exploration and the adventuring, you're playing old school Resident Evil. But
Mm,
then when you're doing the shooting, you're playing RE4, over the
mm.
shoulder. And that alone is like insanely ambitious. But this trailer, you're driving a damn car.
It really felt like they had that blend down of the two Resident Evil styles, and then they saw Pacific, was it Drive that come out,
Yeah.
and they were like, hey, yes, just put that in the game. Why not? Like, and I think that's gonna really blend well because you think of like the intensity of on the foot combat, and then when you're gonna have to get from A to B, it's still intense. It's just there's never going to be a let up. Like it's just going to be intense from start to finish. Getting to your destination is going to be an ordeal in of itself, and then arriving there, you're not safe. So
Yeah. Dude, what an ambitious project these guys are cooking up. Talking once again, that would be my three tier for indie anticipation. Holston, Harold Halibut, and Plucky Squire. Which Plucky Squire, it's hard to consider that totally indie, but still, it's yeah, definitely highly
yep, Holston
anticipated.
is top of my list. Absolutely, really looking forward to that.
What you got for me next, man?
Um, the Worshippers of Cthulhu game just speaks to me, man. Like town management is I know it's kind of like been done to death, but it's one of them like comfort, like a Tropico and stuff like that. It's very hard to get them games wrong. And just putting that in like a setting of like, and you just have Cthulhu just in the middle of your town, just doing Cthulhu things and just
Yeah.
throwing people in there to feed it. Like, give it to me. Let's go.
Yeah, dude.
Absolutely. I don't think it's going to be like exceptionally special or anything. It's just going to be one of them things where it's just for those that want them town city builders and stuff like that, it's gonna resonate with them.
Do you know if that has a release date? Did it say
Steam 2024.
2024? So just a 2024 window.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I I'm gonna shout out the heirloom here, or the heirloom here. It's
Mhm.
a puzzle solving, decision making, narrative driven adventure game, and it's releasing in October. And they have like a cool little setup where you can pay them directly for a physical copy, and it's just through like the site, the Ko-fi site, where you just like send a little tip, and then you tell them what platform you want, and then they're gonna ship out the game in October. Hopefully, I'm hoping that that's the plan,
Yeah.
that you actually get your
So
copy.
it's a different way of doing the physicals, I suppose.
Right? Yeah, I don't hate it. You know, you saw it with Larian and in Baldur's Gate 3, where it's like, yeah, just order it directly through our website and we'll ship it to you when we can get it to you.
Got
And
got my email for that today, saying that
oh,
PC copies have shifted and next month will be consoles. They had to delay the console because
oh,
they're putting, I think Xbox is on 4 discs instead of three now. It's just like, for fuck's sake, guys.
it's such a juggernaut. That was when you said, I was like, why in the hell would they go PC before console? But that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. I see where you're going there. But yeah, this heirloom game, it reminded me a lot of Oxenfree. I got a lot of
Mm,
Oxenfree vibes from it. But you know, anytime you do narrative driven decision making game, I'm immediately going to be at least mildly curious. So, the Heirloom releasing in October of this year. And what you got for me next?
I would be shocked if this hasn't made your list. But Spine,
Yeah,
yep,
yeah,
it is. It is Sifu with guns.
it
It
is.
is Sifu with guns, and boy oh boy, does it look really crisp. That combat looks really, really tight, just like Sifu did. And the only knock I'll give it, I've said this time and time again, is I don't particularly care for like the quippy stuff. So like your spine talking to you, that kind of thing, it doesn't really do much for me. So as long as it's not like constantly chattering into your ear, I'll very much enjoy it. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's everywhere bar Switch 2025.
Only thing, because I saw this when I think it was revealed at the Future Game Showcase. Well, they do so many now. They do one per quarter.
Mm.
Um, I think it was the end of 2023 when this was first announced. And I was like, yeah, right. This is never going to release. It's not a real game. And then, to their credit, before I give my criticism, they showed real gameplay here. That's 1000% real gameplay. Still, I have no idea if it'll ever release, but it's real gameplay.
It's really
Now,
tight as well.
you thought
Doesn't
so?
look, yeah, for what it for the budget, like
Right.
within the budget that my expectations that I set, it's not going to be $100 million budget for what they've got going for them. It looked tidy enough.
Yeah, so I love Sifu, and you can't compare it to fucking Sifu that had Sony funding. But like, dude, this spine game just moves so slow in comparison. And with this like quick moving action game, which maybe you have to have the controller in your hands to really understand the fluidity of the combat or something. Maybe it needs to be a bit slowed down because you have to, time you have to when you go into third person shooting, kind of timing your aim, and there may be more mechanical variety in there that needs a bit slower of a pace. So once again, this is really early on. I don't want to judge it too harshly right now, but in terms of that Sifu comparison, Sifu was just so, wow, so crunchy, so snappy. This didn't, it looked a little sluggish to me, but I,
It's got a year to polish up. Um,
2025.
yeah, it's got a year to polish up and get them things ironed out. So hopefully that they can use that time wisely. Because yeah, it's
Yeah,
not obviously on the polish of a Sifu, but I think it was a lot more slower as well because it had a lot of like finishes with the guns that lock you in, kind of thing.
true.
So
Yeah, yeah,
It,
that is true.
it has to
I'm
kind of
excited.
slow down that way.
Anytime you throw a third person single player shooter out there or whatever the case, I'm always going to be at least mildly interested. So shout out to Spine. Was that your pick or was that mine?
That was mine, I believe.
Okay. All right. So my next one, I'm gonna quickly breeze through this. I'll actually quickly breeze through my last two. I only have two more left.
I only have one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, perfect. Still Wakes the Deep. We got an official release date for that. June 18th, coming to Game Pass day one. You're an oil rig worker and you're escaping the law. You're running off to sea to escape the law, which is a cool narrative beat. I was okay, cool. There might be a little story here. Coming from the Chinese room, Amnesia developer. So a little bit, you're gonna be playing a slightly horror-ish walking sim, which that's in their wheelhouse. And I did like that in this future game showcase, they showed that the environment sort of dynamically shifts throughout the game where you like certain shit will break on the ship. And so a path that you used to use to get back to your base or to your, safe zone or whatever, you might not be able to get back to that safe zone using the exact location that you would usually traverse. So you have to like think and strategize to get to your destination with different routes. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, Still Wakes the Deep, June 18th. And my last game, I just wanted to shout these out because they got release dates. We already knew about these. Indica releases May 8th. This game is batshit crazy. It's a sacrilegious version of Plague Tale, which Plague Tale is already kind of sacrilegious in some ways, but it's like this weird sacrilegious comedy game.
Mm.
It's you have to me sitting here and trying to describe it, it's a third person narrative driven game where you got a little bit of platforming going on, but you're playing as like this nun and it's a hallucinogenic sort of experience where you are, if I'm not mistaken, I think that the devil is living in your head and
Mm.
you're like communicating with the devil throughout the game. And it looks batshit crazy. But me talking about it does not do it justice. Go watch this trailer. It is nuts, man. And yeah, that's releasing May 8th. So May 8th for Indica and for Still Wakes the Deep, we got June 18th, day one Game Pass for Still Wakes the Deep. So two nice release dates that we got there.
Yeah, we're seeing a weird um I wouldn't say flood, but that's a few titles now that have had heavily like religious themes, like the Inquisitor coming out, something that really wouldn't usually get touched upon.
Yeah,
So hell yeah, I'm all for it.
for sure, man.
It looks
Absolutely.
interesting.
What was your last one?
So I think it was actually the last game, or it was one of the last games that was shown in the showcase. It's Tales of Iron 2. Did you play the first one?
I didn't, but I figured I when I
Geralt
saw
of
those,
Rivia the Rat. Let's go.
it's the voice, right?
Yeah, Geralt's
Yeah.
voice. It so the first game, it's kind of like budget Hollow Knight. It doesn't have the speed that Hollow Knight has, but it kind of has that like world setting kind of thing where everything's grim. It's 2D Metroidvania kind of thing. Really visceral combat. Really visceral combat. And you're like a prince that's trying to retake his kingdom in the first game and working your way through your like arch enemy and you finally overcome that. Holy shit, like vampires in the second game and stuff. It looks so much darker because it was already like that's what I mean. It was grim in the first game. This is grim and dark in the second game. Like the first game flirted with like the horrors of war and like you know what that does to countries and how it affects people in ways, and that this just seems like they're just coming out swinging, going for like the full fantasy and just like hell yeah, let's push this. But that yeah, anything vampires, I'm always there for. So that yeah, that's probably of all the games like the whole Stin game looks cool. Flintlock and Harold Halbert, and that's the one I'm most excited for overall.
Nice, dude. Shit, yeah. Listen, man, I I know that it used to seem like these future game showcases had bigger titles when there were fewer of these future game showcases each year. But I can't lie. I kind of prefer this method of let's just show off a bunch of indies and double A's and have it once every 4 months, like or once every 3 months. That's really sick to me because there's some stuff on here that like I just, I never heard of in my life. So,
Mm.
and I think it does a good job of highlighting games that people have never heard of. So that is the future game showcase wrap up, the things we're excited about from the show. And with that out of the way, that is the first episode of our news. I don't even know what the hell we're going to call this thing. Our news discussion, our weekly
The news
gaming news.
segment.
Yeah, man. So that's that. Appreciate you good people for watching. Actually, before we get out of here, Lord forbid some more damn news drops or some shit. Uh just want to check through one more time. Oh, wonderful. Jesus Christ. It doesn't stop. Well, there's nothing we could really report on here, but there's going to be a Judas showing tomorrow, like a full in-depth preview of Judas, Ken Levine's new game
Oh yeah.
tomorrow.
Oh
So
yeah.
we will be talking about that next week for sure. But we
Hmm.
will see you good people in the next one. Loon, you have any parting words for the good folks at home?
No, I just hope you enjoyed it, and let us know how the format goes. They enjoy it.
Absolutely. Let us know in the comments, man. Drop a like, subscribe if you're new. All of that good shit massively helps out the channel and gets it out to more eyeballs. We shall see you in the next video. Goodbye.
See you later.